everyone, and welcome back. Today I want to do a raised garden, vegetable garden tour. That was a mouthful of words, but I also want to show you how my strawberry container that is filled with lettuce as well as herbs are doing, because that is equally doing fantastic. As you can see behind me, these are doing great. Now I want to also talk about what happens to lettuce if it is too exposed to bright sunshine. So I'm going to be showing you that, as well as what you can do to revive them. I will also run a little bit of a clip of showing you the proper way of planting tomatoes, and then I will show you what they look like after a bit of sunshine exposure. That came out weird, but after they've been exposed to sunlight, what happens to them when they are planted in a sideways position. So with that, you guys, let's get started. I've got a lot to cover. So I want to start with my wall vegetable container, because this is actually doing fantastic. I've got my spinach here, I've got red lettuce here, and then I got an Italian mix over here, and this is doing really great. However, if you notice this right here, and maybe possibly up here, lettuce actually does so much better with bright light like what you're seeing right now, but when it gets blasted with direct sunlight, they pout a lot. Now you can remedy that by giving them a good splash of cold water. That really will just pop them back up as soon as that sun goes away. So that's one way to take care of that. But outside of that, they are doing fantastic. Now let's go hit this side. It's always a plane when you want to start talking. Anyway, you guys, before I show you this part of the garden, I'm just going to step away so you can see how much better this is in comparison to last year. And I really don't have a whole lot to compare, other than it really didn't do very well. But in comparison, in my eyes, this is more of a success. This is not the same garden that I planted last year, and this is not the same garden that I planted earlier this season. Now it looks like a feast. And that is exactly what I've been doing, is feasting on this. So what I'm going to do when I show you this, because I need to turn the camera around, is that I'm going to also be running a small clip when it comes to my tomatoes, so that you know the right way to plant them and what happens once they get exposed to sunshine. So let me turn the camera on. So before I get started, I just want to share one more thing. My containers look kind of bad because they're dirty, they don't look really attractive. However, I choose to do these tan containers because if I was to come in here, and you can actually even see how it still looks wet. Right down here is still sopping wet. So all these plants, the root system is going to draw down and still collect some water. Now, all of these will be in a drip system. However, if you're hand watering, it's better to go with a light colored bag container than a black container, because a black container will just draw out all that moisture much faster than these will. So keep that in mind when you're planting in containers like this. Okay, let's go over here. So right here, I have a tomato plant. It's an Amish Roma tomato paste tomato, and this one here is a determinate tomato plant. It just means that it's got a determinate size. So it's only going to grow maybe 36 inches. That's the maximum it's going to grow. And this one here, as I was showing you on my tomato plants, when you plant tomatoes, you want to plant them sideways. So actually, when I planted them, I had plucked, and as you can see on this little video, I plucked a lot of the stems off of the bottom part, and then I planted it sideways. And so the actual root that came in the container is right over here, but it'll produce more roots as it goes further into the stalk. So that is how you really want to plant your tomatoes, so that you can have a really nice healthy plant, because more roots means healthier plant. And after a day with good sun, look at it's upright. Now, as far as companion plants, peppers, I have a jalapeno pepper here. I have two regular peppers. One is called an orange blaze pepper, and then that one over there is an orange sun sweet pepper. And these are perfect companionships to tomatoes. Now, the only thing is that they will compete for roots. These are 20-gallon containers. It may be enough, but really 20-gallon containers is perfect for tomatoes, especially if they're an indeterminate tomato plant. So with that being said, even though they're companions, I will be removing two large peppers and putting those in a separate container and leaving the jalapeno one. And then I will be adding some mums, because mums are great for pollination. So yeah, so that's where that is. And this is probably less than a week's growth, and it's doing fantastic. Then over here I have yellow squash. This is looking fantastic. And this is finger cucumbers. Now, the finger cucumbers I will be moving out. I may leave the squash, because any type of viney plant, such as cucumbers and squash, are great companionships for tomatoes, because when you're watering, it helps reduce the splashing up on tomato plants. So that's something to keep in mind. However, again, this is a 20-gallon container, and this is way too crowded for the tomato plant to grow. And now this one here is a cherry tomato plant, and it is an indeterminate tomato plant. So that one will get as tall as it's going to get until the frost kills it. So it's going to keep producing and keep growing very, very tall. That is why I have 6 feet tall bamboo sticks, because eventually I will be training it to go up here. And then on this container I have 2 cauliflowers, and then I have a Utah cabbage. Now you may notice all this. Well, I actually will show you what's going on with that. See all those aphids down there? That is what's chewing them up. But not only are they eating it up, my chickens as well are eating them up. Yeah, they're probably little aphids, so I got to come in and spray them with natural spray, which is an oil like peppermint spray, would get rid of that. So that's something that to always keep an eye on. And then right here I do have some mums. Then up here I have red boar kale. This one is doing fantastic. It's not being bitten by bugs or anything that I can see. So that's a good sign. And then I've got my Merlot lettuce here, and then just red lettuce over here. And these are doing fantastic. And then right over here, do you see how perky these are in comparison to the wall? That's because these ones are not totally exposed to sunlight. But this is just an Italian mix. And then look at how much more advanced my spinach is over here. And the reason for it is because spinach can handle shade. And so because of that, it's doing fantastic. Down here, I have some celery. I did have 2 celery stalks that were starting to flower, so I removed those. I will be planting other things in here, probably some more celery. And then this one's still doing pretty good. This one was from last year. Over here, I have a salad mix kale. And this, as you can see, I have been harvesting and making smoothies. I've been making salads, and oh, it's just been fantastic. But that's everything there. And then over here I have my chives, And then right here is 3 broccolinis. Now, these ones here should have been planted 24 inches apart, and clearly it's not. So I'm keeping an eye to see how well they do in the spacing that I've got them in. Over here I have my golden beets, and they're very sparse because my chickens have actually come and ate all the foliage off of it. So the new foliage is starting to come out, and hopefully I will end up with beets because I did find a few of them missing. Then over here is still my leeks. They still look pretty good considering the container. Never have replanted them in a bigger container, but at least you can see that you can use a small container to grow leeks. So yeah, so that's where all my garden is, and it just makes me feel so proud to have a garden that's being this successful and that I am able to actually harvest from. So here's my strawberry container. Hasn't this advanced for those of you that have been following me? Look at how big this is. So this is a great testament that you can grow a vegetable garden and herbs in a strawberry container. This is probably no different than your tall, upright, swivel type containers. It's just in a much smaller version. So what I have here is, but I have some red lettuce right over here. I don't know how well you can see that. I have butter lettuce here, and then I have another red lettuce right over here. This one's a little slower growing because it's being covered with all this butter lettuce, but it's still doing pretty good. Then over here I have Italian parsley, I have oregano herb over here, and I have some cilantro, and this is an Italian cilantro. Who would have thought that Italians grew their own cilantro? But they do. And I gravitate a lot towards Italian herbs because they're just great performers. And so I like to stick to that brand. And then I'm going to turn this around as much as possible. This here is actually a Persian chocolate lysimachia. It's a ground cover. Now the reason why I put it in this container is because it complements the rest of my red lettuce here. As you can see, it's beautiful, and I have been harvesting off that as well. I don't know how much pollination any of this really requires, but you know, it's doing fantastic, so it must do something. Now this doesn't have its flowers yet. It will be growing little yellow flowers. This is a plant that is a really nice plant for any shade garden because this will take really deep shade to part shade. Then over here I have some more spinach, and if you notice, this spinach is pretty small and pretty sparse. And a big reason for that is because I have it more in the shaded area. But it's still looking really fantastic. And then over here I have some Italian lemon thyme. This is also an Italian herb, and this is, oh, it doesn't only taste good, it smells good. So it's really a great plant to have, or a great herb to have, rather. So I actually have mine positioned like this on a regular basis. So my spinach is back here, but it still gets damper lighting. So it's still growing and becoming healthy. My lysimachia, well, that takes shade, and it can tolerate a lot of shade, so that is perfect for this. So when you're planting a rotated container or a strawberry container, and you don't want to fuss with turning it all around, then plant your more shaded plants in the back, and your plants that require a little bit more sun in the front. That's something to take away from all this. So that's why I wanted to show you this, just to point those things out in case I didn't do it on my previous video on this. But yeah, look at how beautiful that is. The other thing I want to mention is if your herbs, like your oregano or your thyme, if it gets too much sun, they will flower. And doesn't mean that they're no good. It just means that it takes more of the flavor out of it. So always harvest when it's this big, and clip off of it and it'll continue to produce beautifully. Now down here I have a container filled with last year's golden beets. But the chickens have also been feasting on this, but it's getting a lot of new foliage. Now keep in mind that the leaves on your beets are also edible. So you can put them in a salad, or you can actually even do a smoothie with them. And they have a great flavor too. So don't throw your greens away. Make use of them. But yeah, these are doing great. I do have a few little missing ones, but they're still doing good. And the beauty about this container is that I can water it from the top over here. Never water above, always water below. But I can water down here, and it just filters throughout this whole container. It drips down to my beets, and then I don't have to water them. So this is really great way to set up a vegetable garden, is by getting, and this is metal. So if you have a metal stand or a wooden stand that, you know, can filter water through, that vegetable garden right below it is going to get plenty of water. Okay, you guys, that's going to do it for me. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some great tips from this. Now, I'm not an expert in vegetable gardening, but I have to say that this has been really rewarding to not have to go to the grocery store every time I need some lettuce or some kale for some smoothies. It's a really, really great feeling. And once my tomatoes and cucumbers come around, that's even going to be much, much better. So you guys, get up, get out, and get active. Grow yourself your own vegetable garden, even if it's in a strawberry container or an upright container of some sort, such as this. So, you guys, I love you. I'll see you guys next time, and thank you for joining me.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. I know man, passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. Get me up, sewing in